It's one of the most daring prison escapes in U.S. history. 7 inmates break out of a Texas maximum security prison and seemingly vanish into thin air. After weeks of meticulous planning, their escape unfolds almost perfectly, but their freedom is cut short when a global spotlight turns the Texas 7 into America's Most Wanted. Hey everyone, I'm Jen. Thanks for being with us for another week of Two Crime Newsies. I'm sitting here with my buddy, Tina.
Hi, everybody. Speaking of daring things, we were pretty daring today.
What did we do?
We ate a burger.
Oh my gosh.
Cinnamon roll. Currently still snacking on the cinnamon roll.
On my way over to Tina's house, I texted her and I told her I need food. Normally, it is Tina's responsibility to feed me when I get to her house for podcasting.
And that consists of like donuts and cookies and stuff.
Yeah, yummy stuff. The essentials.
The essentials.
But today I decided to switch it up a little bit and I texted her and I was like, hey, are you in the mood for a burger from our local burger joint?
Yes.
So showed up with food and
I already had the cinnamon rolls ready to go.
Our friendship
so
just works.
We are feasting. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
And we do have our coffee here. Second one of the day for me.
Third for me.
Good for you.
And a Diet Coke already. I am well on my way.
Oh my gosh, yes, I have a Diet Dr. Pepper over here. Oh my gosh. What's wrong with us? We are not well.
We're not making healthy life choices, but we're making tasty ones.
Oh, I know. It's so not healthy.
Well, while we're drinking our coffee, I have to admit I have been draining our coffee fund. So for all those who have contributed, thank you so much. If you don't know what we're talking about our buymeacoffee.com/2crimenewsies coffee fund.
You can find that at twocrimenewsies.com. There's a list to buy me a coffee there. If you want to donate to our coffee fund, please do. It is also reaching unhealthy levels.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so before we get to today's episode, I want to mention that we're going to be talking about some things that may upset some of our listeners, like Tina.
That's true.
I'm just kidding, my friend.
No, it's true.
But seriously, we're going to be talking about some serious things in today's episode. So if you're more of a fan of our lighter episodes, no judgment at all. Tina, my co-host, is even a fan of lighter episodes.
Oh, man, those are my favorite.
I know. We'll get to a fun one next week.
Okay.
So if you are a fan of our lighter episodes and don't like the darker episodes, maybe find another one of our episodes and tune in again next week. Okay, my friend. With that listener warning being given, are you ready to get to this week's episode?
I love it. We're just jumping right in. Let's do it.
The show we're talking about this week is called The Texas 7, and it's season 1, episode 2 of Greatest Prison Escapes. Tina, there is a whole series, and not just one season of it, but multiple seasons about prison escapes, and apparently great ones at that. Have you ever heard about this show before?
No, but now that there's no Alcatraz, what do they do when they catch the prison escapees? Because that's where they used to send them, right? To Alcatraz?
Oh, yeah.
So
they used to send... Yep, you're right.
So now they just send them back to the same prison?
That sounds like a bad plan.
Also, I'm not sure any prison escape can be as daring as the Alcatraz one we talked about, jumping into cold, choppy waters of the San Francisco Bay and then somehow making it alive to shore. Well, maybe. We don't know if they did or not.
Yeah.
That's a great prison escape. So let's see how this one compares.
All right, let's do it. So the show opens with an interview, and in the bottom right corner of the screen is the CNN logo. The person being interviewed on the screen says, authorities in Texas are on the hunt for 7 prison escapees, and the convicts have been on the run for more than 2 weeks. Do you like how I did my little TV voice there?
Good job.
And then we see mugshots of the escapees on the screen with the first initial of their first name and their full last name. The men are M. Rodriguez, G. Rivas, J. Garcia, L. Harper, R. Halprin, P. Murphy Jr., and D. Newberry. And we're told that they're in prison for a slew of crimes, including robbery, kidnapping, sexual assault, and even murder.
Then we jump to a prison door sliding open, and a man walks out looking pretty tough.
He does not look like the type of folk you want to be meeting in an alley somewhere.
No. And my first thought, Jen, is this guy must be a former prisoner or something. And it turns out he's the host of the show. And he says, "Welcome to Greatest Prison Escapes." Then he says he knows a thing or two about prison escapes because he was a former prisoner. In 1975, he says he escaped from a Turkish prison 5 years into serving a life sentence. A life sentence. What did he do, Jen? Allegedly.
Allegedly.
He says his name is Billy Hayes, and he wrote a book about his escape called Midnight Express, which was also made into a movie in 1978. I need to start making a list of books to add to my Christmas wish list.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like it.
I've got at least half a dozen.
I mean, these aren't the books that I normally read. We all know what kind of books I typically read.
Oh, yes.
My spicy books.
These are much better.
But I can honestly say as well, I was not expecting to have a man who broke out of prison narrating the show. I mean, only in true crime can someone go from escaping prison to hosting a TV show about escaping prison. Talk about relevant work experience. I mean, right? He knows how to do it.
That's such a good point. I wonder how they found him, because don't you think he's kind of a natural?
He is. He's very like a smooth talker.
Yeah. I really thought at first he was a TV host trying to look a little intimidating. But he's intimidating, and he's not trying to be a TV host. He is a host. He's a good host. His tone, his cadence, his inflection. Bravo, sir. That's impressive. Billy says in prison, there's only one thing everyone thinks about, and that's getting out. And this show is about those people who would do whatever it takes at any cost, he says, for freedom. And this story today is one of the most violent escapes, is what he says.
We hear that the escape of the Texas 7, as they're going to be called, is one of the most genius escapes in history. The escape took place at the John Connolly unit in Kennedy, Texas, which is a maximum security prison. Now, I'm not a Star Wars or Star Trek type person, but if you are, you might appreciate this reference, or at least I hope you do. The prison from Google Earth up above looks less like a prison and more like something straight out of Star Wars, like a giant Imperial starship that landed in the Texas brush country.
I can see that.
The Connolly unit was fairly new at the time of the escape, having been built only about 5 years earlier in 1995. The narrator says the ringleader of the Texas 7 was a man named George Rivas, who was only in his 30s but was going to be in prison for life. We hear that he was up for parole in 270 years. So at that point, he had nothing to lose.
I like the way Billy Hayes sums up George Rivas. He says the man was only 3 decades old when he racked up 3 centuries of prison time.
Wow.
We hear from Toby Shook next. He's a lawyer and former prosecutor. He says George Rivas appeared to be intelligent, but also a classic psychopath. He explains that Rivas liked excitement. He was a risky guy. He had a big ego and no conscience. We learn Rivas recruited a group of men for the escape. First up was 29-year-old Joseph Garcia, who was serving a 50-year sentence for murder. And if these men want to get out of prison, they're going to have to make some magic happen, because they are surrounded by massive fences topped with these enormous spirals of concertina wire.
What is concertina?
By the way, is different than barbed wire. Concertina wire is made to inflict deep cuts, and trap whatever and whoever tries to get through it.
Yikes.
And if you happen to make it through that impossible obstacle, then you have to get past the towers, manned by sharpshooters that surround the prison. Billy Hayes says if you want to get out of this place, you have to force your way out. And I can't even see, if you do force your way out, how you would make it to the other side of the prison walls alive.
That sounds terrible.
Terrifying.
We hear the inmates did their due diligence, just like the 3 men who escaped from Alcatraz prison. We did an episode on that a while back, and if you haven't listened to the episode, make sure you do. I can honestly say it's one of my favorites. The escapees were so smart. One worked in the prison barber shop and took scrap hair back to his cell with him. The men also created makeshift heads out of paper mache, which they put in their beds each night to fool guards making their rounds. This went on for months, and all the while, they were preparing for the most daring escape into San Francisco Bay and then into the unknown.
Back to this story, we learned that each day there were 100 guards watching over the 2,800 inmates, and those inmates were held throughout 20 buildings.
Tina, 100 guards for 2,800 inmates.
Doesn't seem like enough, right?
Like, I'm not a mather. That's my husband's job. But to me, that mathin' just is not adding up. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not a mather either.
I know we are not two mathers here, but
even to us.
But those odds are not good.
The numbers don't seem right.
No.
Rivas and Garcia also observed this math problem, Jen. And
they're mathers.
They're going to figure this problem out. And they start watching each guard, learning their routines, their habits, their mannerisms, anything that they can use to take advantage of them.
The first thing the inmates need was a staging area or a prep area for the escape. So, where did 2 inmates go to get some machinery and tools for cutting, privacy, and most importantly, keys to a vehicle?
The Popular Mechanics magazine. Oh, that was the wrong episode. Sorry. That was Alcatraz.
Well, they go to the prison maintenance room. It's the one place where they have access to anything that someone may need to break out of prison.
I need more information here, Jen. How are prisoners allowed access to machinery and tools and keys to a vehicle?
Can I tell you something
Yes.
really quick? Okay, so we had talked about in a previous episode that I had visited a prison while I was in college.
As a visitor. As a prisoner.
And I wasn't going there to visit someone. Like, I went there on my, own accord with, my class.
For research.
Yes, it was not one of those scare them straight situations. Like, it wasn't that kind of thing. So we drive up to this prison, right? And this prison is, in the middle of nowhere. And
As it should be.
Yes. Yes. And we drive up, and there's all these inmates. At the time, I didn't realize were inmates. Just all these people walking around outside the prison. In front of the prison, they're, sweeping, they're doing things.
Outside of the gates or in the gates?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Some of them, so we're driving down this road, and the road only leads to one place, and it leads to the prison.
Uh-huh.
And you pass through, a fence, but it's an open fence. It's just kind of a perimeter fence. So, anybody can drive in and drive out. And then you drive up to the building, and there's fencing around the building, and there are inmates just kind of scurrying around everywhere outside of the building. And they're doing all these chores, they're picking up trash, they're sweeping, they're doing all this stuff. And I was like, these can't be inmates. Maybe they're just guards that are dressed in orange jumpsuits. And the friend who I was riding there with, she was like, no, Jen, those are inmates. And turns out they were inmates. And it shocked me that they were just walking around outside of the prison.
That has to be so tempting if you're an inmate and you're outside of the prison to just keep moving closer to the perimeter.
I'm just I think it was probably one of those, it kind of befuddled me. I'm assuming these weren't the serial killer, murdery type inmates that were out
The
and
really
about.
dangerous guys.
Exactly. But just the thought of them, out there. Huh. Don't you think that's odd?
No, I do. I do think that's odd.
Not to mention, what if one of these fellows knows how to hotwire a car? I'm sure some of them probably did. I don't know.
Well, these guys didn't even have to know that. There were keys.
This is true. Just
There
take
were
it and go.
keys to the vehicles in this room, readily accessible. They weren't behind lock and key. And
Don't.
no pun intended. And they are especially dangerous prisoners, these guys. And I get that there's guards in there with them, watching them, but still, it seems way too risky to me.
Maybe at this point in time, they hadn't shown any signs of malicious intent, or they had been like, what is it called? Good behavior.
Well, they didn't have good behavior before.
That's true. They made bad life choices. This is when the plan really came into motion. The inmates needed to overpower the guards and the other workers at the prison, get their uniforms, because it's a lot easier to leave a prison wearing a guard uniform than it is to leave wearing an inmate uniform. And then they planned out to just drive off in a maintenance truck. But in order to pull off this whole escape, Rivas would need more help.
And he certainly scouted out his recruits as carefully as he observed the guards. We learned that each recruit was assigned to the maintenance department, which is that room we were talking about that has the tools and the car keys. And each recruit had a unique set of skills in mechanics or carpentry or even plumbing. There was 37-year-old Michael Rodriguez, who was serving 99 years to life in prison for hiring a hitman to kill his wife. 36-year-old Larry Harper, who was serving 50 years in prison for 9 felony convictions related to rape of 3 women. And 38-year-old Patrick Murphy, serving 50 years for burglary, battery, and aggravated rape. Murphy, we also learned, was the carpenter and knew the prison layout well, since he had been working to fix windows throughout the prison. 37-year-old Donald Newberry is another recruit. He was serving 50 years for a violent robbery. And the last recruit was 23-year-old Randy Halprin, who was serving 50 years for, this is awful, nearly killing an infant. Billy Hayes has a great line here. He says, 7 psychopaths, 1 plan, and plenty of time to execute it. Wow.
On the show, we see a reenactment of the men standing around a prison map. You know the kind I'm talking about, right? The kind of plan that you see architects holding on TV. I think they're called schematics, I think. And it makes me wonder if these plans were just laying around the maintenance shed. I feel like something like this should be under lock and key in the warden's office because, hello, it's prison. And we hear the group plan for months until it was time.
They literally had a blueprint of the layout.
Exactly. And keys to a car. And there weren't enough guards. I mean, I never worked in a prison, so I don't want to say something wrong here, but I feel like 100 guards to 2,800 inmates is not enough.
Mm-hmm. And if they really did have that layout of the prison, this is a reenactment we're seeing on TV. It would be crazy, but we see a reenactment here of a conversation between a guard and one of the prisoners looking at the layout, and the guard asks what the guys are doing with the prison map. And one of the prisoners calmly says they're studying the power sources around the prison so they don't blow a circuit breaker with their power tools. No big deal. If this conversation really happened, Jen, these guys were planning their prison break right under the eyes and ears of the guards. They weren't even hiding it.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get to dinner time on December 12th, 2000. The 7 prison escape planners are acting a little strange and have caught the attention of some other prisoners and guards. They notice that this group of 7 men are praying with some intensity over their dinner.
In the world of crime, it's often the smallest details that cost people the most, the things they didn't see coming. And when it comes to your home and auto insurance, overpaying every month without realizing it, that's a costly mistake.
That's where Quentin Brown with Shamrock Insurance comes in. Instead of locking you into one option, Quentin shops over 25 top-rated insurance carriers to find you the best coverage at the best price, so you're not left paying more than you should.
Whether you're a homeowner, driver, business owner, or even a truck driver, Shamrock Insurance has you covered.
No surprises, no wasted money, just smart protection tailored to you. So before your next bill hits like a bad plot twist, make the smart move.
Call Quentin Brown with Shamrock Insurance today at 512-337-2482 and let him shop for you. Because saving money should not be a mystery.
If you missed that number, it's 512-337-2482. We'll include it in the show notes. Don't wait. Give them a call today.
And this takes us to December 13th, 2000. On the show, we see a reenactment of the day. A guard is sitting watch in the maintenance room, and we see another guard come in and swap him spots. It sounds as if on the show the guard was new to the maintenance room and told the inmates to bring the tools they were using to him. All besides Rivas gave the guard their tools. And we see the man portraying Rivas hold up a drill and say, "We've got a problem with the electrical panel."
Turns out when Rivas said electrical panel, that was code to the other guys, and it meant it was time to overtake the guards. In the reenactment, we see the guard walk over to the electrical panel, and instead of leaving the room, the inmates each pick up a tool, and Rivas goes into the room with the electrical panel behind the guard and holds a crowbar behind his back when he suddenly hits the guard with it and starts a brawl with the other inmates joining in and attacking the guard.
We hear that the guard put up quite a fight in that electrical room, but he was no match against 7 inmates hitting him with tools. That's when another guard and 2 civilians enter the maintenance room and ask where the guard was. Those 3 were also quickly overpowered by the inmates. So at this point, the inmates have access to 4 uniforms, but they needed more.
We learn that staff and guards come in to work their shifts. The men grab them, beat them, and tie them up. In total, there are 11 men being held in the maintenance room.
So there's a prison guard uniform for each of the men, and now it's go time for the inmates. But one of the men didn't follow orders, and things quickly started going off script. We hear inmate Rodriguez was tasked with staying put with the guards and other prison staffers who were being held hostage, but he got distracted, and he ended up going into another room. Seizing the moment, one of the guards used a pocket knife to cut off his restraints. Acting quickly, he continued to cut the ties of the other guards and workers in the room, and they managed to pull the fire alarm. Why the fire alarm, you may be wondering? Well, the fire alarm locks the prison down, meaning everything shuts down. No one in and no one out. Basically, no one moved, for a better term.
And I don't have this in my notes, Jen, but I have some questions here. Because in the reenactment, it looks like the inmates are holding this group of 11 in the room with the electrical panel, and they're holding the door closed somehow so they can't get out. But you would think that there would be some sort of communication that they would be trying to get in contact with the control tower via radio or something, unless the inmates took the radios too, which I guess would be smart, right? So,
I mean, we don't know, but you make a really good point there.
Right. And now the rest of the guards at the prison are searching for a possible fire because the alarm went off. The phone starts ringing in the maintenance room. It's not clear in the show, but it looks like Rivas may have answered the phone and said something that made the tower guards think everything was fine, so the alarm was shut off. Either that, or by some sheer dumb luck, the alarm was shut off.
So with the guards tied up again, the group changed into the uniforms and headed to the prison control room. There, a guard asked the actor portraying Rivas on the show if there was in fact a fire, to which Rivas tells him, "False alarm," and hands him a box of donuts. Clearly, Tina, this had to be the show taking some liberties, don't you think? I mean, where in the middle of a prison escape would a group of inmates get a lovely box full of delicious pastries?
And why was this important enough to include in the show?
Exactly. It was one of these, I was like, why are we showing this? Like, no. Take it out. Edit it out.
Anyway, Rivas is in the control room now, dressed as what looks like a maintenance civilian. That's one of the uniforms they took from the men. And he needs to turn off the monitors in the room. And we hear a reenactment on the scene where he tells the guard on duty in that room that he needs the monitors shut off because he has to get into the tower to change some relay links. I have no idea what this means, and I wonder if it's an explanation for the false alarm.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Like maybe the faulty relay links could trigger a false alarm. I also wonder if it's routine to ask for the monitors to be shut off, because that seems highly suspicious to me, especially if it's a new worker asking a guard to do it. Surely the control room guard has never seen Rivas before, and now he's suddenly asking to turn the monitors off?
I feel like in a prison, though, you probably have a lot of turnover with guards.
Maybe.
You know?
Or the maintenance workers, maybe.
I know,
I'm
right?
just over this
I know.
nonsense. Now we see Rivas climb up to the tower. The tower phone rings, and it's the inmates in the maintenance room asking to speak to the maintenance worker, which is Rivas. So the inmates in the maintenance room pick up the phone, call up the tower, and ask to speak to the maintenance worker, which is Rivas. If Rivas gets on the phone, that means their plan is working, and it's time to take down the control room and the tower guards at the same time. So on the screen, we see Rivas say into the phone, "Yeah, I'm here." And that means it's go time.
This is when we see the actor portraying Rivas on the show hang up the phone and quickly take the tower guard's gun and tell him to turn around. Next, we see the inmates, still wearing uniforms, run to a maintenance pickup truck and stash the tower guard's guns in the back. The men jump into the bed of the truck and a blue tarp is put on top of them, and then 3 others get into the front of the truck, and we slowly see the white maintenance truck start driving. What gets me, Tina, is how seamlessly this plan came together for these men.
Seriously. But it wasn't just about the plan. There was also mistakes made by the staff. As one person in the show puts it, taking your mind off this job for even 1 minute can lead to some terrible things happening in a prison. And we see a reenactment now of the maintenance truck rolling up to the gate that leads to freedom. The reenactment shows the gate guard asking how the men are doing, and they say good. And then he goes around the truck holding a rod with a mirror on the end so he can see if there's anyone or anything hiding under the truck. When the gate guard asks the guy to open the tailgate, the driver tells them that it's going to get messy because the tailgate is full of garbage. It's full of tools and of sawdust. And in the reenactment, it looks like the gate guard fumbles around trying to open the tailgate anyway and tries to lift the tarp, but he isn't able to because the men are holding the tarp down from the inside. So the gate guard gives up. He tells the driver he's free to go. Unbelievable, Jen.
I know. That's crazy. And off they are.
How does the guard
freedom.
not think this is suspicious? The tarp doesn't lift up. Does he think maybe there's just some heavy tools under it, like holding it down? Come on.
I know. We learned the 7 inmates subdued 15 men, stole 14 handguns and a semi-automatic rifle, ammunition, and even a pickup truck. And then they rolled out of the maximum security prison and onto the streets of Texas. At this point in the show, my mouth was literally on the floor because this is insane. It is crazy.
It's insane that they were able to pull it off. There were so many obstacles in the way that they were able to just get past with very little effort, I think. That's very scary.
And this takes us to December 14th, 2000, when news starts spreading about the prison escape. I actually remember hearing about this. I was 14 at the time and remember turning on the 5 o'clock news. I was always a weather watcher, truthfully, I still am. I absolutely love the weather, and Tina will totally vouch for me. She had on this like weather thing earlier, and I was zoned in her TV screen. And I love the weather, but that evening I tuned in early for whatever reason and heard about this very escape. I lived thousands of miles away from where this escape had happened, but knowing that 7 very dangerous inmates were out there just kind of cruising around and no one knew where they were, that was terrifying.
Toby Shook, the lawyer and former prosecutor, says not only is it shocking that there were 7 escapees, but also that the 7 men hadn't been caught right away. We also see a recreation of the 7 inmates pulling up on the side of a road behind a minivan. and one of the inmates gives the minivan driver a hug, and the 7 inmates take off in the minivan.
Despite roadblocks around the prison, we hear that inmate Rodriguez's dad had a vehicle waiting for the escapees nearby. That's the guy Tina mentioned giving one of the inmates a hug. We hear the inmates stayed in cheap motels and away from the spotlight. The only thing authorities found was the maintenance truck, and it was truly as if the men had vanished into thin air.
Then on December 15th, 2 days after their escape, the inmates rob a Radio Shack in Houston.
I used to love a Radio Shack.
Yeah, me
Remember
too.
those?
Yeah.
Those in Circuit City.
I forgot about Circuit City.
The olden days. We're showing our age here.
Yep. I have to say, though, I'm shocked that they were still in the same state 2 days after their escape. I assumed they'd be all the way into Mexico by then.
Despite tips and lots of news coverage, the Texas 7 vanished again. And the question was, where would they turn up next? Would they hang around Houston? I mean, Houston is a metropolitan city that has millions of people. Or would they flee the state or even the country and go to Mexico? It was truly anyone's guess, which, if you think about it, is terrifying.
But while people, like me, were assuming these guys were surely long gone by now, we hear investigators didn't think so, because the money they stole from the robbery wasn't much. They would need more. So investigators were on high alert for them to try to rob another place. And they knew that Rivas had a history of robbing big box stores.
This takes us to December 24th, Christmas Eve, Oshman's in the city of Irving, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas-Fort Worth. Now, I didn't know what Oshman's was, so I had to look it up. And according to Google AI, and honestly, I can't believe I'm pulling a Tina here and quoting Google AI, but nonetheless, here I am.
To stay, I think.
According to Google AI, cringe. Oshman's is a sporting goods store that apparently is iconic in the state of Texas. It also apparently is the retailer that pioneered the play before you pay megastore concept, which I have to admit, I had no idea what pay before you play means. So
Play
again,
before you pay?
play before you pay?
Yeah.
Yeah, no clue. So alas, Google again. Apparently, play before you pay means customers are able to physically test out sports equipment inside the store before they buy it.
That sounds dangerous.
I thought this was interesting, not dangerous, because I'm so used to sporting goods stores having this, but apparently it's not always been a thing. And the concept originated in the 1990s at Oshman's. As they say, Tina, you learn something new every day. There you go. I learned that from Google AI today.
I've never heard of an Oshman's.
Same. Back to December 24, Oshman's in Irving, Texas.
It's Christmas Eve and 11 days after the escape.
They've been on the road for 11 days.
I know, isn't that crazy? Whew. Billy Hayes tells us Rivas knew Oshman's had cash and it had guns, and that's what they were going for. We hear a news report that aired after the robbery that says all 7 men robbed the store at 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve. They were able to handcuff 23 store employees by posing as security guards. The inmates made off with $70,000 in cash, some winter clothes, and 25 guns.
Tina, they stole $70,000 in cash. They could literally go anywhere in the world with $70,000. That's $10,000 a piece. Do you like how I did my math there?
You're a very good mather. I'm impressed.
70,000 divided by 7. 10,000 a piece.
Good job.
Go me. But there was a major problem that followed the Oshman's robbery, and it breaks my heart to talk about. On the screen, we see a police officer sitting with what I'm assuming is his wife and his son. It's Christmas Eve. Officer Aubrey Hawkins responds to the call and comes face to face with the 7 escaped prisoners, all of which are holding guns pointing at him. At this point on the screen, we go inside what looks like a courtroom and a mannequin, which shows a reenactment of multiple places where Officer Hawkins was shot.
This is absolutely horrific to see. It was a brutally violent attack on him, and it made my heart ache to know this man left his family on Christmas Eve, and they never saw him again.
We learned that 29-year-old Officer Hawkins, a 5-year veteran of the police department, a loving father and husband, was killed that night by these 7 pieces of dog do. Needless to say, after the senseless killing of a police officer on Christmas Eve, anger spread throughout the community. The FBI was called in, and even John Walsh from America's Most Wanted chimed in, which I'm itching to discuss.
Then on New Year's Eve 2000, geez, Jen, these guys are some real Grinches, aren't they? Running around on the eve of the happiest holiday season and spoiling it with their evil deeds.
Bad people.
The 7 inmates show up to an RV park in Colorado and have the audacity to pretend they are missionaries doing the Lord's work. They stayed at a place called the Coach Light Inn for 3 weeks. And did I mention these guys have some audacity? Boy, were they just rolling around in audacity. They lunched, Jen, at a restaurant just a couple of blocks away from the sheriff's department there. And they walked right into a police equipment store to buy more guns and ammunition. How many guns do 7 guys need? They already had more than 2 dozen.
That's crazy. They were hiding in plain sight. And this takes us to January 20th, 2001, when America's Most Wanted featured the Texas 7 on nationwide and international TV stations. Their faces were literally everywhere now, and to make it even more enticing, the show offered a giant reward for information leading to their capture. And on January 22nd, 2 days after America's Most Wanted broadcasted their faces to the globe, a tip led to their capture. A person in Colorado recognized the men and called it in. 4 of the Texas 7 were taken into police custody after being recognized at a Colorado gas and convenience store and a nearby motel where they had been staying.
We see video of Rivas being walked in handcuffs by police, and he sure stands out like a sore thumb, Jen. He has bleached blonde yellow hair with black roots, and to me, he just looks like a walking red flag or a yellow flag.
He reminded me of way back in the day. Remember, will the real Slim Shady please stand up?
Yes.
Please stand up. Remember that? And
Yep.
everybody had their like hair dyed bleach blonde and like roots were showing.
Yes, I can see that. Anyway, it reminds me of the prison escape story where the couple went on a run, and I can't remember if it was the man or the woman that painted their SUV a bright color.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, they didn't paint it that color. It was.
They did.
They did?
Or they bought it.
They bought it.
A bright color.
It was like a bright orange. I mean, come on, people.
That's no way to not look suspicious.
You might as well write, "Here I am" on the side of the car.
A giant arrow. We also learned that Rivas waived his extradition and was sent back to Dallas County.
We hear a 5th member of the group committed suicide, but where were the other 2? Well, Newberry and Murphy Jr. ended up getting caught later in Colorado Springs, and apparently they went peacefully after officers agreed to give both men 5-minute on-air phone call with a local news reporter.
What a weird request. I think I would have said no at the TV station, or not it.
Not it.
The 2 men apparently wanted to get on live TV and air their grievances about the Texas penal system and talk about their feelings of injustice. Eric Singer was the reporter called to the scene to speak with the inmates. But by now, this, I think, is just too late, Jen. No one is sympathetic to these guys who violently killed a man just trying to do his job on Christmas Eve.
Nope.
We hear Newberry on the recording, and he says that the system is giving kids so much time to serve that they will never see light again. The 2 inmates continued to talk to the reporter for their 5 minutes and then gave themselves up to authorities.
All 6 of the surviving men were sent back to Texas and ended up getting convicted for the murder of police officer Aubrey Hawkins. We hear that several of the men have already been executed while the others await execution. At this time, I want to remember all those who were affected by the terrible events that ensued when these men broke out of the John Connolly unit. From the guards, to the people inside that store in Houston, to the people inside the Oshmans in Irving, to Officer Hawkins, to his family, to the people in Colorado who encountered these 7 inmates. The things they put all of these people through is horrendous. And more specifically, before we close, I want to talk about Officer Aubrey Hawkins for a moment. Because as we like to do on our podcast, we like to remember the victims. I went down a rabbit hole, as I tend to do, because I wanted to know more. And what constantly kept popping up with were all of these tributes to Officer Hawkins. On the Irving Police Department's Facebook page, there was a post about Officer Hawkins, badge number 830, more than 25 years after his death. And that single post had over 150 comments underneath his picture. And there were so many amazing words of kindness and strength and hope that I want to share some of those with you. One came from what sounds like an officer who wrote, "He was a very good officer and person. When he was off duty, he would always stop and check to see if I was good while in traffic stops." Another came from a man who claimed to have been the manager on duty the night of the robbery, who wrote, "Officer Hawkins made the ultimate sacrifice, and I will be forever grateful to him." Another officer wrote, "If I live to be 100, I will never forget that Christmas Eve call out. I don't think any of us will forget that night. Aubrey was a fine man and police officer. His life was cut short by such a shameful act. My heart goes out to his family at this time of year. Rest in peace, brother." And with that, I want to say thank you for joining us for another week of Two Crime Newsies, and we will talk to you again next week.